Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today, we are going to be playing around with OpenAI. I am so lucky I joined the waitlist really early on. But for those of you who don't know, OpenAI creates GPT-3. This is a natural language processing AI that has been trained on billions of parameters. What that means is it is a language processing AI, so something that interacts with plain English, and it's being trained on billions and billions of documents. And this is beyond the scope of any kind of small startup, and they are providing a real service by offering an API. So I wouldn't say a lot, but there are many companies out there, many startups are using OpenAI's API in the back end. So what they do is they, promise all sorts of AI features. You pass them some sort of text, they'll go through OpenAI, ask them for the answer, and spit it back out. I'll show you what that means in a moment. But what needs to be said is that this is AI. This is trained on lots and lots of text. What AI is looking for patterns among a vast amount of documents. And in this case, they have trained at a scale that most companies can't do. As a startup, and certainly as a hobbyist programmer, you're never going to find the billions of documents you need to create something as useful as GPT-3. And even established companies will find it very hard to do. And so having an API for anyone to access is really helpful. Now, what's interesting is there's all this talk about GPT-3, and it's been around for a little while. I wanted to show you very quickly that the latest news that came out a couple weeks ago, I guess, is that Microsoft is creating larger and larger AIs. And so this one is 530 billion parameters. I have no clue when this will be public, how you can access it, all of that, but it's saying that there are more and more parameters. So in theory, the AI will be richer, will be more accurate, and so on. So you can see GPT started, a quarter of the way into 2020 with 175 billion parameters. They're hoping that the Megatron Turin one will show up. Well, is showing up now at 530 billion parameters. So that's something like 3 to 4 times more. It's what that means is these systems will be more and more accurate. Similarly, there is an open source AI that are trained on billions of parameters as well. So this one, GPT-J from Eleuther AI, is a 6 billion parameter model. What you can do is actually deploy this one all on your own. So if you find OpenAI's API a little bit pricey, which it is, then you may want to go with something open source. Now, I'll talk about those later, but I just wanted to show you a couple examples of what OpenAI can do in this video. OpenAI has already created a whole bunch of prompts. How these work, and I will just pick one here. How these work is you basically give them a big chunk of text. It can be this size, it can be a couple pages long, it can be absolutely massive. And then you give it a prompt. You ask it in plain language what you do. So it's kind of like if you talk to an Amazon Echo or or Siri on iOS. You can give the prompt in plain English. And OpenAI has created a lot of prompts that have already been formatted so that they're fairly easily understood. So in this case, they're asking for plain language a second grader can understand. And I've played around with it a bit. You can put a third grader, a fifth grader, a seventh grader. It will understand and adjust this. So what it's doing is it takes a big block of text here, something about Jupiter, and then you asked the AI to summarize it so that a second grader can understand it, and you get a response. Okay. So, and you'll see that these are all very similar. You give a big block of text and then you ask for the keywords. You get the text, you get a prompt. You get a text, you get a prompt. And there's a whole bunch of these. So grammar correction, you have the original and then you want standard American English, the next prompt. This is what OpenAI does really, really well. Because so many people are using it that they have a lot of these prompts. And if you start using Eleuther AI's various kind of systems, you'll find that their prompts aren't so good. So you're okay to ask for keyword extraction. Virtually everyone does that. You're okay with summarizing text. But if you ask something like, a horror story creator, it's just not very good. So there's a bit of give and take. The open source ones from my very limited tests are actually really good at the basics, summarizing, rephrasing, and they have at times even better results. Generally, they're fairly comparable. But if you start having very strange kind of prompts, as I said, micro horror story creator, I don't know what that is, 2-sentence horror story, it just has no clue what to do with that information. Now, a bit of housekeeping here. OpenAI has a sharing and publication policy. So I am Anson. It is a personal account that I'm using. It's my own account. It's very clear that all of this is an AI. So obviously no reflection on OpenAI. They've just trained billions of documents and are spitting things out. But what I want to do is start trying some of these out. What's really important is if you look at the pricing, you get to choose between different models, fastest, most powerful, and you get to choose kind of the pricing. 1,000 tokens is about 750 words. So about every 750 words, it's, upwards of 6 cents. I'd say 750 words is about page and a half, 2 pages on Word. So it's not too bad, but it does add up. So if you want to do it personally as a project, it's all right. I don't mind putting $10, $15 in there, summarizing a couple of documents here and there. But if you're building an actual app, it costs a lot. So I tend to look at the legal tech space, and a lot of people are putting contracts through OpenAI, and they're 20, 30-page documents, and every time you submit it through, that's potentially 30, 50 cents, and it adds up if you want to scale a business. The other problem is you are expected to get your applications approved. You can't just start playing with this. There's a playground. You can run it through. As I said, I kind of have used it to summarize a few documents for my own kind of purposes. But if you want to start building a service, you got to get it approved by OpenAI, which, is a problem. Okay. I have been chatting for quite a while. I just wanted to start seeing what we can do here. So we open the playground, and I'm just gonna generate this and see what it spits out here. And there you go. instead of, saying gas giant with a mass of 1,000th of that of the sun, but 2.5 times that of all other planets in the solar system combined, it's saying it's really big. It's bigger than all the other planets in the solar system put together. That's pretty cool. I am gonna go with the Ada engine, but you can see that all right, let me gather my thoughts here. If you have played around with artificial intelligence in the past, which AI course learning, deeplearning.ai, I highly recommend these courses. I think they're free. You can pay for a certificate, but I think they're free. You should definitely take it, at least take the introductory courses, because AI seems this mystical piece of magic for computers. Oh, the computer's thinking on its own. But really what it's doing is it's looking for patterns. And what I think really stuck out at me is that there is a lot of fiddling with parameters here. So in this case, these guys they give you the ability to fiddle with a couple parameters, but when you're looking through the data, parsing through the data, there are all of these parameters where there's just no magic. It's trying to fit the best line. It's just trying to fit the pieces together. So, I have no clue. Like, I didn't bother reading this before this video, but you can fiddle with some of these parameters and how the response actually looks. So if you're willing to have a longer response, which of course ties into higher costs, you can generate and run this again. So let's run this again. And look, it gives us a slightly different answer because we're using a different engine. We fiddled with the parameters a little bit. You see that I kept the mass of 1,000th that of the sun. Actually, this looked like the same text. So this isn't a very good model. So let's go with this and generate again. Okay. Well, we have content warning, so I'm not going to share that. I wonder what kind of flagged that down. So I will refresh this. Okay. What I wanted to show you guys is that you can do this with a lot of different things. This is obviously a preset answer. But if we wanted to just, for example, take their social media policy and see what it'll say. This is a longer piece, but we want to know what it says in plain language. Second grader might be a bit too much legalese. Let's go with a 7th grader. And we will generate and see what it comes out. Wow, okay, so that was very short. OpenAI is a research company that creates AI programs. Yes, that is interesting. They give the program a prompt and it writes a story. That's what I was trying to explain. They've done it very concisely. They then share the story with people on the internet. The stories are often funny, but sometimes they are offensive. The people on the internet can share the stories with their friends. That seems all accurate to me. They didn't pick up very much of what needs to be said. So let's bump up the response length and generate this. Ah, very good. Look at that. If you want to share your AI-generated content with other people on social media, you must follow these rules. You must tell people it is AI-generated content. I hope I made that clear. OpenAI is there's no real person from OpenAI typing this out. You must not share it too often. You must not share if it could hurt other people's feelings. Blah 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 blah. Nothing political, hateful. If it does something bad, must tell the OpenAI team. So, very cool. And I find this super useful. I have done a couple videos at this point about how I kind of learn and how I kind of parse things out. Um, happens all the time where we get a giant long article and we just want it TLDR'd. We want it super quick. And so what I want to do is go to docracy.com, I think, and pick out a legal document and see how it actually looks when we summarize it. Okay, this is a very short one. They have different ones. Okay, independent contractor agreement. That should be longer. Very good. Now, I am very curious to know how this will be summarized. Okay. And we now generate a summary. Okay, so let's get rid of the general provisions and let's get rid of the title and recite. And we will have a slightly shorter response. Still a little high. Okay. Survival. Does it need to stay in there? Generate. Okay, this is a pretty crummy kind of response here. And I don't fault them. How do you summarize a legal document? It's generally pretty difficult even for someone trained to do so. So not surprised. It does happen often. And what happens when you hit that limit? So 2049 characters. What you can do in the code actually is to send them multiple prompts. So you can send prompt part 1, part 2, part 3 in separate tokens. And so you would write this, say in Python or some other library, and just give it chunks of 2,000 words. So I wouldn't necessarily be using it in the playground. I might write a bit of code, send it in blocks of 2,000 characters, and then ask for a prompt after I send, say, 5 or 10 different blocks of information. So there is no limit. You can have longer and longer pages. Anyways, we are getting up there in time. I was hoping to keep this in about 20 minutes or so. What I wanted to show you guys is just run through a couple of the other examples here. Translate programming languages. Who hasn't done this before? Who hasn't had this problem in which okay, I haven't gotten that yet. So obviously this is not what I can do yet. The codex model, I need to join the waitlist. So I suspect a bunch of these will be in codex as well. Python to natural language, that's pretty cool. But what happens a lot is the Q&A. Okay. And this is not a great demo. based on existing knowledge. Okay, Q. What does California Consumer Protection Act say? And we will generate this. And here we go, we get an answer. So what it's picking up on is all the documents it has trained on, it's trying to pick out an answer from here. It says that businesses must provide consumers with clear and accurate information about products they sell. That's very accurate. Where is the Valley of Kings? That is a great question. Is in Luxor, Egypt. There are a couple prompts here as well that kind of switch between English and different languages. Code is obviously a new feature that they're starting to work on. So Python, JavaScript to Python, all of these things. But more than anything, what I really like about it is you can, as long as you get access, you can just throw it right into the playground and have something really, really useful that costs, pennies to run, and it'll save you a lot of time. What I wanted to say is that when I've played around with this API, I have been gobsmacked at the results sometimes. I hear about law firms that kind of try and train their own AI on their contracts, and I just think these guys leapfrog ahead of everything else. Companies that were trying to train their own data sets, I think, are going all the wrong way, because you take GPT-3 and you can customize it a little bit to your liking. You can retrain it a little bit. And what you're going to have is a much better system than if you trained it from scratch. And so there's a lot of companies right now in legal tech where they are taking contracts, picking out keywords, picking out key terms. And I think, the ones that have been around for 5 or 6 years trying to train up their own AI are going to get beat by startups that just run OpenAI, do a bit of legwork to train it up. And the results are really, really astounding. And the application for this is huge. If you want to take your own notes and summarize them, if you want to read books, if you want to build a Reddit bot that summarizes news articles, you have all of those options available. And so if I were you and I'm a little bit intrigued, just sign up for the waitlist, because you could be waiting a while. I'm going to sign up for that Codex waitlist immediately and see what it can do. And I just gotta wait for it, because I think the pricing is really all right. If we use something like Curie, it's 1/10 of the price of DaVinci, can do a whole bunch of stuff. So, I hope that was interesting. Probably should do a few more runs at the end here. Oh, look at that. Just create an essay for you, and wonder what this will do to high school students that need to write essays or book reports. What else do we have? Restaurant review creator. That's interesting. Okay, well, again, I hope that was interesting. Do sign up for OpenAI. I think it's amazing. And I may, one of the hard things is I can't just build something from scratch with it on screen. So if you have any questions, do leave a comment. If you like this video, thumbs up and subscribe. If not, also leave a comment. I love to hear from you. Thanks, and see you guys next week.